recently.
I will destroy them all.
Hello and welcome to The Coordinate, an Attack on Titan podcast. If this is your first time listening, well, hey, I'm Tyler, and me and my friend Bill take turns talking about the latest episode of Attack on Titan. I'm up to date on the manga, while everything this season is totally new to Bill. That said, I won't be spoiling anything for you. Today, I'll be talking about Attack on Titan, episode 73, Savagery. This episode weirdly starts out exactly where the previous episode ended, and by that I mean it repeats like the whole conversation between Gabby and Mikasa and Armin about how all she thinks about is killing. And Armin says something like, "Kill this, kill that, that's all you think about, just like someone else I know, just like someone else I know." And then, speak of the semi-literal devil, Eren walks in, and the intro music starts. And yeah, I'm still enjoying this intro song, but I think I kind of overplayed it a bit because I've been skipping it lately. But I still like it. I went through a phase where I just listened to the original soundtrack to the show like a lot over the past couple of like last month or so, and yeah, I think I just kind of overdid it a bit. Anyways, after that, we come back to the table where Mikasa, Armin, Eren, and Gabby are all seated. The scene is like super tense. It's dead silent in the room, all except for the ticking of a clock. Tick, tick, tick. And Gabby's fearful whimpering in the presence of the person who destroyed her like hometown. So that sucks for her. Eren says conflict isn't necessary to solve Eldia's problems and that he just wants to talk, but, you know, his hand bleeding all over the table kind of says, like, something different. It says he's willing to do whatever it takes to keep moving forward, such as exploding through the building as a Titan. So yeah, it's not super comfortable. It's like, it's a very awkward meeting, and it's sad because this is the first time seeing these three, like, best friends post time skip, so it's an unfortunate way to meet. Armin asks what made Eren attack Marley solo, and if Zeke and Yelena were really able to bring him over to their side. Eren responds by saying he's free and makes his own decisions, like, you know, he's like, he does what he wants. Mikasa accuses him of being manipulated because she knows he is kind and such, because he gave her the scarf after, you know, killing those people as kids. Yeah, good example of kindness. Sure, it was self-defense, but like, I don't know, it's still pretty psychotic, like, for little kids to be killing like that. Anyways, Eren's like, no, Armin is the one being manipulated over here. Like, it's because he's got Bertold's memories. Like, he ate him, and now he's got his memories. You all know this to be true. Armin is like, that revelation just like throws him in shock. He's just like, oh, he knows there's at least some truth to it. And yeah, he hasn't just been visiting Annie out of curiosity's sake. Like, consuming Bertold kind of made him have a thing for Annie in a weird way. Yeah. So Armin's thrown into a shock, and he doesn't really come out of that until Eren goes on to accuse Mikasa of being a slave based on what he's learned about Titans and Ackermans from Zeke. So here is what Eren has to say about Mikasa. He says, "Yo, Ackermans were designed to protect Eldia's king. When she was faced with a life or death situation, she heard Eren's order to fight. And in that moment, her instincts were awoken. By mistake, she thought he was the host she had to protect, and the headaches that she gets so often are like a result of her old self resisting against protecting the host, him." He then goes on to say he hates slaves, and as such, he has always hated Mikasa, but couldn't figure out why until now. So Mikasa starts sobbing, and that's real sad. And Armin like comes out of his shock and just like jumps across the table to punch Eren in the fucking face. And Mikasa slams him, and Mikasa and Armin just look like so surprised by her actions, because like she clearly didn't mean to do it. It was just instinct. And Eren's leaning back in his chair, bored looking. I don't know what Gabby's doing. She's probably still crying. A lot of people think that Eren's like completely lying when he says all of this, especially the bit about hating Mikasa, but I'm not quite so sure. I mean, if he is lying, I think he's doing similar to like what Zeke did when he was talking about how he transferred how he transformed Connie's village into Titans. He gave them mostly the truth, but then like he threw in that bit about them being paralyzed. So I think there's a lot of truth in what Eren's saying. For example, Mikasa clearly didn't protect Eren from Armin's punch on purpose. Like, that was like purely instinct. And I guess that's because she's bound to Eren, whether it's because of being an Ackerman or just like how she loves him. But, you know, I don't think she would purposely hurt Armin, especially in that situation where Eren was purposely hurting her. Plus, Armin resorting to violence calls back to something he said back in the very first episode. He said, "I win when they resort to violence." And that was a reference to him getting into an argument with some other kids and them beating him up. So I think the fact that Armin had to resort to violence means that he knows like he can't win this argument, because the whole thing about him having Berthold's memories and being compromised because of that is true. Like he feels that to be true. So while I can't say that Eren has always hated Mikasa, I can say he's always treated her pretty shittily. Other than that time he saved her life. Such as like yelling at her for embarrassing him the countless times she saved him, plus, you know, the time that she ratted him out to his mom about wanting to join the Survey Corps. Like, he's always treated her pretty poorly, in my opinion. So anyways, Eren proceeds to beat poor Armin to a pulp while saying that the reason they never fought before is because it wouldn't have been a fair fight at all. Armin tries to throw in an insult by saying something like, "Tell me again, who's the slave that bows to a bastard?" And Eren's like, "Who you calling a slave?" And that line's just like super, super goofy to me. Like, I don't know. I think it's partially like his facial expression then. He's just looking back, we're like, "Who you calling a slave?" It doesn't sound goofy when I say it out loud, but it felt goofy to me. And this whole conversation is, I think it's a really good scene. We don't know where this is going at this point. Like, why is Eren doing this? Like, why do he want to talk to them? Like, presumably, you know, like I know he says it's to find out where Zeke's location is, but he didn't really do anything to try to convert them to his side. He just like insulted both of them, and then he's like, "Now just tell me where Zeke's at." So anyways, the gang heads to Shinganshine, where it all began, and presumably that is where Eren is supposed to meet up with Zeke. So I really like the shots we get coming into Shinganshine. We see Eren's like Attack Titan's old like hardened husk that he used to seal up the hole in the wall. We see that, and they've like carved a door into where his eye was, and yeah, it looks really neat. It's like a cool, freaky, kind of horrifying piece of art, and I could see that being like the entrance to, I think in Japan there is like an Attack on Titan land world. I could see that being like the entrance you walk in through Eren's eye. That'd be cool. Meanwhile, in the Titan Forest, Levi is loudly talking about forcing a Jaegerist to eat Zeke, which I guess is a pretty harsh punishment, you know, like making them ruin their own plan, because without Zeke's royal blood, they can't do, what are they trying to do? Like, everybody's trying to do the rumbling, right? Like, so I don't really know what they're trying to accomplish. I guess they're just trying to rumble quicker. Anyways, whatever they want to do with the founding Titan, they can't do without Zeke's royal-blooded Titan. So making one of them eat Zeke would ruin that plan. But also, I feel like you don't want to give, you know, a Titan shifter power to like a Jaegerist who is the enemy of the state. That seems like a bad idea. So one of my favorite lines from this episode is from this conversation. Levi says, "That bearded shit was our enemy after all, and now we know it. He doesn't deserve to have limbs." So, yeah, basically everything Levi says in this episode is golden, and I'm going to be quoting it throughout the rest of this episode. I love Levi. He's great. So Levi kind of goes into like a daydream of fulfilling his promise to Erwin of killing the Beast Titan, when suddenly he hears Zeke's theme song playing, and he knows he's up to no good. He knows he's not reading that book anymore. That's when we see Zeke running away, and he does a scream. And Zeke kind of runs away like a dork, which makes sense. He is a dork. He's weirdly nerdy to be like an antagonist. Like, I don't know. He's clearly messed up, but he just has this like nerdy energy that makes him sort of non-threatening. But while he may seem non-threatening, he turns everyone in this forest except for himself and Levi into a Titan. So now Levi's got 30 mindless Titans trying to kill him, and then he's kind of like stuck with the guilt of here all my comrades go dying again. Like, Levi's gonna have to put them down. And I like that we see some hesitation with Levi. Like, I could totally just see Levi, like, cutting them all down. Like, I know he does care about people. Like, I don't think he's a psychopath that just, like, loves killing. Kind of like Zeke is a bit of a psychopath in that way. So yeah, he goes to attack one. It, like, bites at him, and then he, like, sees a flash of, like, who the person was, and that's a good moment. He, like, wonders, like, could that person still be in there? I'm sure there's some, like, curiosity if there's a way to reverse them, but ultimately he can't just let these Titans run around. Like, even if he, like, runs away from them, they could get back to the city and hurt people. So he has to put them down, and that sucks. I really like the scene where we see Levi in the middle, like, floating in the air, just surrounded by Titans. It's a really cool shot. So then we jump to a shot of 3 of the goofiest looking Titans we've seen in a long while. And they're carrying Zeke through the forest, and 2 of them have these, like, big pot bellies, and the other one's just, like, doing the floss while running. And yeah, they're extra goofy, and it's weird. We go from that, like, emotional scene of seeing Levi, like, all of his comrades essentially die, but even worse than that, because he has to be the one to actually kill them. So we go from that very, like, emotional beat to now I'm sitting here laughing at these Titans because they look so goofy. This show is great. So Zeke gives some kind of, like, villainous speech about, you know, explaining his plan, and he's not really, who's he talking to? Like, I'm pretty sure he's saying this and not thinking it, so I guess he's talking to those Titans. I don't know. Then he says, "You thought you had power, time, choices. Not realizing you had none of those, Levi, was your biggest mistake." And at that moment, Zeke realizes his biggest mistake, because we hear, and presumably he hears, Levi's theme song playing, and he's just like, oh, I fucked up. Yeah, Zeke's biggest mistake was assuming that Levi was not going to kill his comrades who had been turned into Titans. Like, Levi's not going to give up. Levi's mission in life at this point is to end Zeke. So Zeke transforms into the Beast Titan, and we just see, like, his face. Like, he's so afraid of Levi, and it's great. He starts ripping apart one of the Titans, and, like, he pulls its head off and, like, throws it. Like, he, like, pulls it in a couple of pieces and throws it at Levi, and then he rips another one in half, which is pretty freaking brutal, and just, guess, like, balling up organs and throwing them. It's weird, but Levi ends this real quick by throwing, like, 4 or 5 thunder spears into Zeke's Titan's neck, and just exploding, and, like, just, again, the fear on Zeke's face is fantastic. When Levi drags Zeke out of the Titan, he looks absolutely like a corpse. Like, he looks absolutely toasted. And he says something funny, like, he's just like, "You smell like shit." And it's like, you should probably say it looks like that, but I guess probably coming out of a Titan, you probably don't smell good anyways. And then so Levi takes him out to a horse and cart, and he, like, while he's passed out, he puts a thunder spear inside of Zeke. So when he heals, it, like, heals around it, so it's, like, lodged in there. They ties it to his neck, and he's like, if you wiggle too much, you're gonna blow up. And it seems like a real bad plan that could totally backfire, but it probably won't. He has one last fantastic line. Levi says, "Was whimpering covered in shit part of your master plan?" And I don't think it was. So I never realized where Zeke's glasses came from, or that there was any interest in them. I just thought they were glasses until the scene where Zeke is asking, like, "Have you seen my glasses?" Like Velma from Scooby-Doo. And then we find out the origin of the glasses next episode, which Bill is going to be telling you about. So, but before that, we have one more scene. Back in Shinganshine, we get the scene that really solidified my hatred of Flock. So, good old Keith Shaddis is just minding his own business, training like the next group of cadets. When Flock and the Jaeger show up, Flock commands the cadets to beat the shit out of Shaddis until he can't stand, because Shaddis represents the old way of thinking that needs to be extinguished from Eldia, and they show a little hesitance to do so, but ultimately, yeah, they beat poor Keith Shaddis, and this guy's just had, like, a very depressing life, and I feel bad for him. But I don't think he's dead, probably. And he goes out. He doesn't back down. He's like, these wimps can't take me or something like that. So I don't know that the scene was as powerful as it was in the manga. And that could be just because I knew this was going to happen. But I feel like in the manga, they maybe showed a little more of the action. Because like in this, it's just like we see like their fists clench. And then we just see Shadis on the floor, like covered in blood, like motionless. So I don't know. I could be wrong on that. But I don't know. We don't need to see an old man get beaten, do we? Do we? They seem to have done a lot of that in this episode where they kind of skip the fight. Like we don't see Levi kill the 30 mindless titans. But I'm actually okay with that because it kind of helped in that moment build like the drama of the scene because we don't know what happens until we hear Levi's theme song playing and he just like comes in and destroys Zeke so quickly. And I don't know, it worked really well for me in that way. Anyways, I really like this episode. Great. As far as animation, I think that the Beast Titan did look a little goofy in some scenes. And I noticed when Armin, after he gets beat up by Eren, I wanted to say Zeke, after he gets beat up by Eren, he's like talking and the bruises on his face aren't moving along with his mouth. And it was just kind of weird looking, but overall, fantastic episode. I can't wait to see more. And Bill's going to be back to talk about episode 74, Soul Salvation, in like a couple of minutes. Like it's probably out now. If you enjoyed this episode, go leave us a review or just like let us know that you enjoyed it on Twitter. That'd be cool. We're at Coordinate Pod. Until next time, don't get eaten. Too young for this trek. The final frontier. These are the voyages of
MC,
Troy,
and Eric.
Their mission to introduce Tyler to strange new episodes.
To seek out the best and worst media in the Star Trek franchise.
To boldly go where several podcasts have probably gone before.
You could listen to these goobers talk about Star Trek by searching for Too Young for This Trek or by visiting probablywork.com.
This has been a presentation
of the We Can Make This Work
Probably Network.
Follow us on Twitter
At Probably Work.
For more of our questionable content.
Also, we have a website called probablywork.com.